You've heard of DNA, the genetic material that makes you unique, the base code for every living thing on this planet, the single most important molecule in modern biology. There is a reason it's called the molecule of life. With over 25,000 genes in the human body, it seems that the DNA is the single most important factor in making you, you. But what if I told you that there are other factors at play, factors that respond not only to your genetic code, but to your environment that can impact your phenotype, the way you appear, the way you act? These factors are a series of silent regulators that come together to form what we call the epigenome. The epigenome is a code of proteins and other organic molecules that coat your DNA and serve to turn certain genes on and off. The epigenome, unlike your DNA, responds to environmental factors, factors such as the climate you live in, your diet and workout lifestyle, even the amount of stress you've been exposed to. This is what causes the epigenome to come into play and turn certain genes on and off. How does it do that? It's a bit complicated, but to put it simply, it binds itself to certain points on a DNA molecule that prevents RNA from transcribing. Without RNA being transcribed, it prevents proteins from being produced and therefore inactivates the gene. It turns the gene off. That whole concept is a little bit confusing though, so I'm going to try to explain it with something a bit simpler: cupcakes. Alright, so right now I'm following a recipe. This recipe is an analogy for our DNA. There are instructions I'll be following in order to make my cupcakes. There are some parts of the recipe that won't be used. I have the option to use 3 different types of icing, but I'm only going to use one. Using all 3 frosting on a single cupcake just doesn't make sense. So based on their environment, or in this case the recipient of the cupcake, I'm going to decorate the cupcakes differently. Now notice how I'm not altering the cupcake recipe in any way. I'm simply choosing what sprinkles to use based on the circumstances. A cupcake meant for a black tie wedding shouldn't have purple icing or star-shaped sprinkles. Likewise, the epigenome doesn't modify the underlying DNA in any way. It simply chooses which traits to be expressed depending on the circumstance. Great. Now I'm hungry for cupcakes. So what does the epigenome do for you now? How does it affect you in the long run? And what has it already done for you? Well, your epigenome formed while you were in development, and when you were a fetus, it dictated what cells became blood cells, liver cells, bone cells, neurons. I think you get the idea. And after you were born, your epigenome used environmental clues to dictate which of your genes would be expressed. For example, people with more exposure to sunlight, born closer to the equator, are likely to have darker skin because the amount of melanin protects them from harmful UV rays. Nowadays, scientists are figuring out ways to manipulate the epigenome in hopes of bypassing genetic diseases.